25. Unconscious control. Yeatman Griffith. Causation. The causation of beautiful singing can only be found through a pure and velvety production of the voice, and this is acquired in no other way than by a thorough understanding of what constitutes a perfect beginning, that is the attack or start of the tone. If the tone has a perfect beginning, it must surely have a perfect ending. Thus Mr. Yeatman Griffith began a conference on the subject of vocal technique and the art of song. He had had a day crowded to the brim with work, although all days were usually alike filled, yet he seemed as fresh and unwearied as though the day had only just begun. One felt that here was a man who takes true satisfaction in his work of imparting to others. His work is evidently not a tiresome task, but a real joy. Mrs. Griffith shares this joy of work with her husband. "It is most ideal," she says. "We have so grown into it together. We love it." As is well known, this artist pair returned to their homeland at the outbreak of the war, after having resided and taught for 5 years in London, and previous to that for 1 year in Florence, Italy. Of course they were both singers, giving recitals together, like the Henschels, and appearing in concert and oratorio. But constant public activity is incompatible with a large teaching practice. One or the other has to suffer. "We chose to do the teaching and sacrifice our public career," said Mr. Griffith. During the 5 years in which these artists have resided in New York, they have accomplished much. Their influence has been an artistic impulse toward the ideals of beautiful singing. Among their many artist pupils who are making names for themselves, it may be mentioned that Florence Macbeth, a charming coloratura soprano, owes much of her success to their careful guidance. Michelangelo has said, continued Mr. Griffith, that a perfect start is our first and greatest assurance of a perfect finish. And nowhere is this precept more truly exemplified than in vocal tone production. The tone must have the right beginning, then it will be right all through. A faulty beginning is to blame for most of the vocal faults and sins of singers. Our country is full of beautiful natural voices. Through lack of understanding, many of them, even when devoting time and money to study, never become more than mediocre, when they might have developed into really glorious voices if they had only had the right kind of treatment. Tone placement. We hear a great deal about tone placement in these days. The world seems to have gone mad over the idea. But it is an erroneous idea. How futile to attempt to place the tone in any particular spot in the anatomy. You can focus the tone, but you cannot place it. There is but one place for it to come from and no other place. It is either emitted with artistic effect or it is not. If not, then there is stiffness and contraction, and the trouble ought to be remedied at once. Everyone agrees that if the vocal instrument were something we could see, our task would be comparatively easy. It is because the instrument is hidden that so many false theories about it have sprung up. One teacher advocates a high, active chest. Therefore, the chest is held high and rigid, while the abdominal muscles are deprived of the strength they should have. Another advises throwing the abdomen forward. Still another squares the shoulders and stiffens the neck. These things do not aid in breath control in the least. On the contrary, they induce rigidity, which is fatal to easy, natural tone emission. In the beginning. When the pupil comes to me, we at once establish natural, easy conditions of body and an understanding of the causes which produce good tone. We then begin to work on the vowels. They are the backbone of good singing. When they become controlled, they are then preceded by consonants. Take the first vowel, A. It can be preceded by all the consonants of the alphabet one after another. Then each vowel in turn can be treated in the same way. We now have syllables. The next step is to use words. Here's where difficulties sometimes arise for the student. The word becomes perfectly easy to sing if vowels and consonants are properly produced. When they are not, words become obstacles. Correct understanding will quickly obviate this. Breath control. Breath control is indeed a vital need, but it should not be made a bugbear to be greatly feared. The young student imagines he must inflate the lungs almost to bursting in order that he may take a breath long enough to sing a phrase. Then, as soon as he opens his lips, he allows half the air he has taken in to escape before he has uttered a sound. With such a beginning, he can only gasp a few notes of the phrase. Or he distends the muscles at the waist to the fullest extent and fancies this is the secret of deep breathing. In short, most students make the breathing and breath control a very difficult matter indeed, when it is, or should be an act most easy and natural. They do not need the large quantity of breath they imagine they do, for a much smaller amount will suffice to do the work. I tell them, inhale simply and naturally, as though you inhaled the fragrance of a flower. And when you open your lips after this full natural breath, do not let the breath escape. The vocal cords will make the tone if you understand how to make a perfect start. If the action is correct, the vocal cords will meet. They will not be held apart nor will they crowd each other. Allow the diaphragm and respiratory muscles to do their work, never forcing them. Then you will soon learn what breath control in singing means. Remember again, not a particle of breath should be allowed to escape. Every other part of the apparatus must be permitted to do its work, otherwise there will be interference somewhere. Causation. Everything pertaining to the study of vocal technique and the art of singing may be summed up in the one word, causation. A cause underlies every effect. If you do not secure the quality of tone you desire, there must be a reason for it. You evidently do not understand the cause which will produce the effect. That is the reason why singers possessing really beautiful voices produce uneven effects and variable results. They may sing a phrase quite perfectly at one moment. A short time after they may repeat the same phrase in quite a different way and not at all perfectly. One night they will sing very beautifully. The next night you might hardly recognize the voice, so changed would be its quality. This would not be the case if they understood causation. A student, rightly taught, should know the cause for everything he does, how he does thus and so, and why he does it. A singer should be able to produce the voice correctly, no matter in what position the role he may be singing may require the head or body to be in. In opera, the head or body may be placed in difficult, unnatural positions, but these should not interfere with good tone production. Registers. I am asked sometimes if I teach registers of the voice. I can say decidedly no, I do not teach registers. The voice should be one and entire, from top to bottom, and should be produced as such, no matter in what part of the voice you sing. Throughout the voice, the same instrument is doing the work. So, too, with voices of different caliber, the coloratura, lyric and dramatic. Each and all of these may feel the dramatic spirit of the part, but the lighter quality of the voice may prevent the coloratura from expressing it. The world recognizes the dramatic singer in the size of the voice and of the person. From an artistic point of view, however, there are two ways of looking at the question, since the lyric voice may have vivid dramatic instincts and may be able to bring them out with equal or even greater intensity than the purely dramatic organ. Vocal mastery. Vocal mastery is acquired through correct understanding of what constitutes pure vowel sounds and such control of the breath as will enable one to convert every atom of breath into singing tone. This establishes correct action of the vocal cords and puts the singer in possession of the various tints of the voice. When the diaphragm and respiratory muscles support the breath sufficiently and the vocal cords are permitted to do their work, you produce pure tone. Many singers do not understand these two vital principles. They either sing with too much relaxation of the diaphragm and respiratory muscles or too much rigidity. Consequently, the effort becomes local instead of constitutional, which renders the tone hard and strident and variable to pitch. Again, the vocal cords are either forced apart or pinched together, with detriment to tone production. The real value of control is lost when we attempt to control the singing instrument and the breath by seeking a place for the tone the singing instrument produces. When the vocal cords are allowed to produce pure vowels, correct action is the result, and with proper breath support, vocal mastery can be assured.